Not. We're going to keep it here on Vice President Mike Pence in Pennsylvania from earlier.
I'm telling you. I mean, the president took the stage and he took the fight straight to Joe Biden. And President Donald Trump won that debate hands down. You know, honestly, I think the president probably said it best. You know, that he was up there opposite the stage of 47 years of all talk and no action, and Joe Biden was facing promises made and promises kept. I mean, think about it. The Constitution says the first duty of the federal government is to provide for the common defense, and that's just what we've done. It's incredible to think, after 8 years when Joe Biden was vice president, when we took office, we literally had a large portion of our Air Force aircraft on the ground being used as spare parts to keep other aircraft in the air. These congressmen know what I'm talking about. But when President Donald Trump stepped into the Oval Office, all that changed. President Trump has actually signed the largest investments in our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan. We've rebuilt our military. We've restored the arsenal of democracy. And I can tell you firsthand, as your vice president and as the proud father of a United States Marine captain and the father-in-law of a United States Navy pilot, we are finally giving our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard the resources and support they deserve as they defend this nation. It's true. It hasn't just been about supporting those who serve today. It's been about standing with all the men and women who've worn the uniform. You know, when Joe Biden was vice president, America saw years of scandal at the VA that shocked the conscience of our nation. It's true. I mean, we literally had America's heroic veterans passing away on waiting lists to get into VA hospitals around America. President Trump took office, he said we were going to reform the VA. President Trump has actually signed the most sweeping reforms of the VA in a half a century. We fired 3,000 VA employees that weren't giving our veterans the care that they earned in the uniform of the United States, and Veterans Choice is now available for every veteran in America. President Donald Trump is the most pro-veteran president in my lifetime. Before I go one step further, I've already called one out, but with the women and men who are here with us today that wore the uniform of our armed forces, would you just put your hand in the air so we can say thank you one more time? Thank you for your service. Thank you, Navy. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Army. Standing with our armed forces, standing with all who did serve in the uniform of the United States. It's a good reason to reelect this president. But it's also one more reason why we need a decorated combat veteran, a man who loves this country and everything that's made America safe and strong throughout our history. On Capitol Hill, Pennsylvania, we need you to send Sean Parnell to the United States Congress. What a great leader. So it's been about defending our nation and standing with those who defend our country. But in our first 3 years, after Joe Biden spent 8 years trying to tax and spend and regulate and bail us back to a growing economy, President Donald Trump created the greatest economy in American history. It's true. It's amazing to think in the midst of a global pandemic, Joe Biden wants to raise taxes by $4 trillion. President Trump We cut taxes across the board for working families and businesses large and small. We rolled back more federal red tape than any administration in American history. We fought for free and fair trade, unleashed American energy, and in just 3 short years, businesses large and small created 7 million good-paying jobs, including 200,000 jobs right here in the Keystone State. Incredible. I mean, in those first 3 years, unemployment reached a 50-year low across the country. Lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans, Hispanic Americans. And a 65-year low for women unemployment. Wages also were rising at their fastest pace in more than 10 years. And what means the most to the president and me? Wages were rising most rapidly for hard-working, blue-collar Americans. The forgotten men and women of America were forgotten no more. You know, and you can sit down if you want, because I got a lot to tell you. You know, when Joe Biden was vice president, America actually lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. Remember? I mean, you know, Pennsylvania's a lot like where I grew up. I mean, you do 2 things well in this state. You make things and you grow things, right? Right? And a proud tradition of manufacturing's synonymous with the Keystone State. But the last administration, when Joe Biden was vice president, lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs, and they said they were never coming back, remember? I mean, I'll never forget the last president, about this time 4 years ago, he said those manufacturing jobs are gone for good. And then he asked, what magic wand do you have? Well, we didn't need a magic wand. We just needed President Donald Trump in the White House. 500,000 manufacturing jobs created in our first 3 years, including 17,000 jobs right here in Pennsylvania. And when it comes to energy, so important to jobs and prosperity, and so important to Pennsylvania. You people in this state deserve to know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to crush American energy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal that would raise the cost of electricity for every home and every business in Pennsylvania. I mean, the truth is, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to abolish fossil fuels and end fracking. That would destroy hundreds of thousands of jobs just in Pennsylvania alone. And they've said they want to ban fracking over and over for the last year. And then Joe Biden comes to Pittsburgh just a few weeks ago and tried to convince people of this country that it's not for banning fracking. He actually said that our president was lying about his record. And last night during that debate, Joe Biden was denying he wants to ban fracking again. He said, show the tape. So Pennsylvania, here's the tape.
Never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated. I guarantee we're going to end fossil fuel. No more, no new fracking.
I'd gradually move away from fracking.
And I think it's critically important on day one that we end any fossil fuel leases on public land.
But what about, say, stopping fracking and stopping pipeline infrastructure and
They want to do the same thing I want to do. They want to phase out fossil fuels, and we're going to phase out fossil fuels.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Okay, Pennsylvania, you got it? No matter what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are saying right now, you could take it to the bank. Joe Biden and the radical left are going to abolish fossil fuels, close down the oil industry, and ban fracking. But we are not going to let it happen. We're going to have more fracking, more American energy, energy independence for this generation and generations to come. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. It's just incredible. So it's been about taxes, it's been about regulation, it's been about American energy. And even on health care. You're hearing a lot of talk about that lately, right? But you all in Pennsylvania, you remember Obamacare, don't you? I mean, Obamacare was a disaster. Remember all the lies of Obamacare? They said if you like your doctor, you can keep him. Not true. They said if you like your health insurance plan, you can keep it. Wasn't true. They said that premiums for health insurance would go down. Well, when we took office, premiums for health insurance had doubled under Obamacare. And last night, Joe Biden said in that presidential debate that, quote, not one single person lost private health insurance under Obamacare. But the truth is, more than 6 million Americans had their individual health care plans canceled when Obamacare took effect. And Joe Biden has a plan to import socialized medicine from Bernie Sanders' plan and put it right in the middle of Obamacare. They call it a public option. The president was talking about it last night. Okay? But I mean to tell you, you put a public option in the middle of that failing Obamacare, you're going to set America on an inexorable path to socialized medicine. But under President Donald Trump, we got rid of the individual mandate. We've been fighting to lower the cost of health insurance without growing the size of government. We've lowered the cost of prescription drugs. We passed right to try at the national level. President Donald Trump and I are committed to give the American people low-cost health insurance and better access to the greatest health care system in the world, and we will do it in a way that ensures that America will never be a socialist country. The men and women of Pennsylvania, we've got a choice to make. The economy alone. I think the people of Pennsylvania deserve to know that this is a choice between a Trump recovery and a Biden depression. I mean, there's a study came out just the other day that said that under Joe Biden's economic policies, America would lose 5 million jobs, and the average household income would drop by $6,500 a year. So over what remains of the next 11 days between now and when the polls close, you've got to ask your family members, your coworkers, your neighbors, and the friends, who do you really think can bring this economy all the way back? A career politician who wants to raise taxes, grow government, stifle our energy economy, and stifle American jobs under an avalanche of red tape? Or do you want a proven job creator who will keep cutting taxes, rolling back regulation, and unleashing American energy? So for our families, for our jobs, for a great American comeback, we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. I mean, that's the choice. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. Beyond security, beyond prosperity. I'm proud to report President Donald Trump has stood for the rule of law every single day. We've appointed more than 200 conservatives to our federal courts at every level, and they are all men and women who will uphold the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution, like the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, and the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. It's true. Now, last month, we paused as a nation to rightly honor the life and service of the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But when the memorials were over, President Donald Trump fulfilled his constitutional duty. And he nominated a brilliant, principled, conservative woman from Indiana to the Supreme Court of the United States. He nominated Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Oh, we're going to fill that seat. And the President and I are also going to hold these Democrats accountable to give Judge Barrett a respectful and dignified confirmation. But, you know, we had reason to be concerned. You all might remember 2 years ago when she was nominated to the Court of Appeals. Democrats on Capitol Hill and their Hollywood friends went after Judge Barrett because of her Catholic faith. I mean, the leading Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee said she was concerned about Judge Amy Coney Barrett's faith because, and I quote, she said, "The dogma lives loudly within you." And Hollywood elites have already been criticizing Judge Barrett's faith and her convictions. Well, I've got news for the Democrats in Washington and their friends in Hollywood. That dogma lives loudly in me. That dogma lives loudly in you. And the right to live and work and worship according to the dictates of our faith lives loudly in the Constitution of the United States of America. So the Senate started their work this week. They're going to be working all weekend long. But I'm going to tell you, as Vice President, I'm also President of the Senate. And I'm going to be in that chair come Monday night when Judge Amy Coney Barrett becomes Justice Amy Coney Barrett. We're going to fill that seat, I promise you. But, talking about the Supreme Court, people of Pennsylvania deserve to know. After 150 years, with 9 judges on the Supreme Court of the United States, leading Democrats in Washington are talking about packing the court, adding seats to the Supreme Court so they can appoint activist liberal judges to advance their agenda using judicial power. Now, first, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris refused to answer the question of whether they packed the court. Remember? I asked her a couple times in our debate, and she wouldn't answer. Then Joe said that he'd tell us after Judge Barrett was confirmed next week whether he was going to pack the court. Now he's saying that it's a live ball. But he's not going to tell us if he's going to pack the court until months after the election. I mean, come on, man. The American people deserve a straight answer, Joe. If you're running for the highest court in the highest office in the land, you deserve to tell the American people if you're going to respect the highest court in the land. But look, we all know. We all know what's going on here, don't we? I mean, they're not answering the question because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to pack the court. with liberal activists who are going to legislate from the bench if somehow they win this election. But we're not going to let it happen. We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years, and we're going to protect an independent judiciary for generations to come. So it's been about the rule of law. It's been about our courts and our Constitution. But it's also been about having a president who stood every day with the men and women who serve on the thin blue line of law enforcement all across this state and all across this country. You know, President Trump and I know what you know. Men and women who serve in law enforcement in this country are some of the best people in America. And they deserve the respect of every American every day. In fact, there's a fair amount of law enforcement that are with us here today. Would you don't mind getting on your feet and just showing them how much you appreciate the job the men and women of law enforcement do to protect and serve our families every day? Thanks, guys. You know, all my heroes wear uniforms. Now, President Trump and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest. But rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Burning businesses is not free speech. Now, for months, all Joe Biden talked about all summer long was peaceful protesters, remember? As Americans literally watched businesses in our major cities burn to the ground. I mean, it breaks my heart to hear a recent study found that Pittsburgh has seen a 53% surge in murders this past summer. And the truth is, Joe Biden would double down on the very policies that are contributing to violence in our major cities. I mean, when you start to back away from supporting those who protect and serve our families, you only embolden those who would do harm to our families and our communities. Now, Joe Biden explains it all by saying that he believes America is, quote, systemically racist. And he and Kamala Harris often say they believe police have a, quote, implicit bias against minorities. When Joe Biden was asked if he'd support cutting funding for law enforcement, he said yes, absolutely. But under President Donald Trump, I'll make you a promise. We're not going to defund the police. Not now, not ever. We're going to back the blue, and we're going to back the blue for 4 more years. You know, the President and I know what you know. We don't have to choose between supporting the courageous men and women who serve in law enforcement and supporting our African-American neighbors and minorities and all the families in our major cities. We've been doing both for the last 4 years. I mean, we've been supporting law enforcement with more resources, more support, more coordination with state and local officials. And we've supported the highest funding ever for historically black colleges and universities. We passed criminal justice reform. We've been fighting for school choice for inner city families. And we had the lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans. We've been supporting our police. We've been supporting our African American neighbors. And we're going to keep doing both for 4 more years. We're going to have law and order in every city, in every state, in this nation for every American of every race and creed and color. So help us God. And finally, you all deserve to know here in Pennsylvania, where the values and the traditions run deep. When Joe Biden was vice president, we saw a steady assault on religious freedom in this country. I mean, the last administration actually hauled the Little Sisters of the Poor into federal court to force them to compromise their faith to live under the mandates of Obamacare. And Joe Biden said if he's elected, he's going to bring them back into court again. President Donald Trump, we restored the conscience rights of doctors, nurses, teachers, and religious charities, and President Trump ended the assault on the Little Sisters of the Poor, and the Supreme Court made it permanent. President Donald Trump is the greatest champion of people of faith ever in the White House in the United States, I promise you. And finally, maybe most important of all to me, where Joe Biden and Kamala...
All right, you've been looking at these live pictures out of Pensacola, Florida. The president has arrived, just stepping off Air Force One to deliver remarks at his Make America Great Again campaign rally in the Sunshine State. He's been there all day. He was at the Villages today in Ocala, Florida, shoring up his support among seniors, 65 years and older, a demographic he needs to have turnout in his favor, especially in Florida. See Chief of Staff Mark Meadows behind the president. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany in the background as well. The president and the White House said he will vote early tomorrow in Florida. And he has taken the stage, and let's listen in now.
Hello, Pensacola. Hello, Florida. We love Florida. There's something going on out there. You know, there's a big crowd of people. You know, the other side's getting a little nervous. They're a little bit shaky right now. They're saying, this is worse than 4 years ago, they're saying. It's really great to be with you. These crowds are incredible. These crowds are incredible. These crowds are... I mean, you can't see it from here. There are people on that side that go all the way down, longer than football fields. Way over there. We're also joined by many incredible patriots from the great state of Alabama. We got to say, Alabama. We love Alabama, right? Thank you, Alabama. 11 days from now, we are going to win my home state of Florida, and we are going to win 4 more years in the White House, 4 more great years, 4 more successful years. Last night, the American people saw the contrast between a 5-decade career politician, Sleepy Joe, right? How do you think he did in the debate last night? He was sharp as a tack. Who was fighting only for himself, and a businessman who's fighting for you. I'm just fighting for you. Biden works for big tech, big media. They're his boss. They're his boss. They keep it nice and quiet. He's got a scandal, corrupt politician. They keep it out. They don't want to let any story go, and I have to give great credit to a paper called the New York Post. I got to give him great credit. His big donors, I'd be the greatest of all time at raising money, but I don't want to call up every guy on Wall Street and say, you got to give me $10 million. They'd all give it to me. I would have numbers. I don't need the money. Last time, we did it with a very small fraction of the money that crooked Hillary used, right? No, but they were saying he raised a lot of money. That means he's making deals. It's so easy. I work only for the American people. I work only for you. Joe Biden uses his public office to enrich himself and his family. I use public office to bring jobs and wealth back to American workers and American families. With your vote, we will continue to slash regulations, lower drug prices, favored nations. You know what I'm doing? The drug companies don't exactly like me too much lately. Big Pharma. You know what? Who cares? I'm doing the right thing. Favored nations. You'll see numbers 50, 60, 70% lower. This is the first time in 52 years last year where drug prices came down. Not much, 1%, but you know what? First time they've ever come down. But now we're going for the big one. We pay the most of any country in the world by far. We're going for favored nations where we pay the lowest price anywhere in the world to matched. We support our police, our great law enforcement, our police. We protect our Second Amendment, which is under siege, but not with me, it's not. We defend our borders, maintain energy independence. Did you hear Joe last night made a big mistake? He made a big mistake. I said, oh, you're against oil. Well, yes, we would like to get it. Oh, I said, thank you. Texas, are you watching? Right? Pennsylvania, are you watching? Ohio, are you watching? And then today they came, well, actually, we're not really against it. We don't know. They didn't know what the hell happened. No, I think he should have lost about 5 or 6 states with that one. That was not good. It was that was the last question. It looked like he made it. It looked like it was going to be okay. He got off the stage, going back to his basement. And then they hit him with the energy question. They hit him with a thing called oil. And he said, no, we want to wean ourselves off by 2025. I think he meant later than that, but he got the dates mixed up. And somehow they didn't like that in Texas and Pennsylvania and a lot of other places. Even you don't like it. You know why you don't like it? Because you like your gasoline at $2 and less a gallon, huh? You ever think that's like, you know what, $2 and less, that's like a big tax cut, of which you've had the biggest in the history of our country, by the way. Then you want to ensure more products are proudly stamped with the phrase, made in the USA. That's what we're doing. We will deliver record prosperity, epic job growth, 11.4 million people over the last few months. It's a record. A safe vaccine that quickly ends this horrible pandemic. And we're rounding the turn. With or without the vaccine. We have the vaccines. They're going to be great. But with or without it, we're rounding the turn. Normal life. That's all we want, fully resuming. We want normal life to fully resume. And that's happening. Don't forget, we had the greatest year in the history of our country last year. And then we got hit with the China plague, right? We got hit with the China plague. We signed a great trade deal with China. In fact, 3 weeks ago, they bought the largest amount of corn, the largest amount of soybeans, beef, everything. Largest deal ever, largest, because they know we're not happy. We're not happy because what they did to us. You know, they stopped it from going into the rest of China, but they didn't stop it from coming out to the world, us, Europe, the rest of the world. 188 countries, the China plague. But we have the most successful year that we've ever had. Next year is going to be more successful than last year. That's where we're headed. Super big. I gave the largest tax cut in tax reform in American history, and we will cut taxes again for the middle class even more. By contrast, Sleepy Joe Biden will give you the biggest tax hike in history. He's looking to give you the biggest. Think of it. Does anybody have a 401k? Because you can just throw it right out the window if that happens. This election is a choice between a Trump super recovery and a Biden super depression, because that's what you're going to have. It's a choice between a boom and a lockdown. Did you hear him last night? Oh, I'd lock down the country. We're not locking down anything. We're not going to lock down the country. We've learned about the disease. We understand the disease. We understand the disease. I understand it better than you. I had it. What the hell was that all about, right? sir, you've tested positive. I said, tested positive for what? But, you know, the doctors took great care of me. They were great. Walter Reed and Johns Hopkins. I had more doctors than I ever saw in my life. When you're president, you have a lot of doctors. You're laying down, you got doctors all over the place. Their hands are in every part of your body, and I'm saying, I don't like it. But I wasn't feeling great, and they gave me something that was unbelievable. Next day, I wake up, and I say, man, I feel like Superman. Rip it off. Let's go. I got to get back to work for the American people. We got to get back. Right? We got to get back to work for the American people. No, it was great. I mean, we've learned so much about this disease, and young people. Barron, my son, Barron. The doctor said, sir, Barron tested positive. Like about 15 seconds later, he said, sir, he's all cured. He just, I don't know. They're young. They have a very strong immune system. What can I tell you? I said, Barron, I'm jealous. As you've heard from his own mouth last night, Joe Biden will delay the vaccine, prolong the pandemic, close your schools, and shut down our country. We're not doing that. We're having a record comeback. And that's despite the Democrat governors not wanting to open up New York, Michigan. You take a look at, you know, Michigan, we won a court case. They said it was unconstitutional. She really ran a tight ship. The only one that was allowed to do whatever he wanted was her husband. Other than that, very tight ship. But North Carolina should be allowed to open up. Pennsylvania should be allowed to open up. You have these governors, they've gone wild. By the way, on November 4th, they'll say everybody can open up. They're doing this to try and deflate the numbers. But the numbers are so good, it won't matter. It's not going to matter. And you're going to see a number on November 1st. It's GDP, a big deal. And the Atlanta Fed just said they project 35%. This is many times higher than any number in history, like 8%, maybe 9%. 35%, because we're coming back. And the reason we can do this is we set up such a strong foundation for the last 3 years. We're coming back, and we're coming back stronger, and next year will be one of the best economic years we've ever had. But Biden would bury you in regulation, dismantle your police departments, dissolve our borders. You don't have borders, you don't have a country, right? Confiscate your guns. Want to get rid of your Second Amendment? If I'm not here, you don't even have a Second Amendment. You wouldn't have it. Eliminate private health care. 180 million people have incredible private health care. They want to end it. Terminate religious liberty. Destroy the suburbs with regulations where they want to put low-income housing projects into the suburbs. I don't think so. That would be the end of the American dream. And they'll abolish fracking. You saw Joe. He said, there will be no fracking. This is for a year. There will be no fracking. No, 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 no fracking. He said it like 15 times. Then what happens? He gets lucky, and he wins, because Elizabeth Warren, if she would have left 2 days early, Crazy Bernie would have run, right? But Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, took a lot of votes away, right? She took a... So nobody talks about this. But to me, it's very interesting. If she were a true radical left, she should have gotten out before Super Tuesday. Bernie would have gotten more votes. It didn't need many, because she didn't get too many. She didn't do too good. But she got enough. They would have all come from him. He would have won every single state. But I think we like it better this way. What do you think? You like it better this way? And we have, you know, 4 years ago, we got a lot of Bernie voters. Bernie, I tell you, Bernie is one guy he doesn't mind losing. He is a guy that doesn't mind losing, because 4 years ago they took advantage of him, and now this time was even worse. It's even worse. But Biden also challenged me to find the tape of him desperately repeating and pledging to ban fracking and fossil fuels. So what happened? He said, I never said that. I never said it. Never. And I said, no, you did say it, right? Everybody heard him say it. We all during the primary. Then what do they have? 27 people, right? 27. How did we ever emerge? Here we are. Here we are. Together. Here we are. Remember? We had 17. But they had 27. They had a lot of people. They had Mike Bloomberg. He stood up and he wanted to run. He didn't do too good. Pocahontas took him out pretty quickly. One question, there goes $2 billion down the drain. So, Joe, I'm going to grant your request because he said, I did not say that, I didn't. He said it many times, by the way. I don't want to bore you with playing too many of the times. But he said no. Then he gets in, he goes to Pennsylvania, and he learns, somebody explains that that's a big fracking state. It's a big, very big energy state. 1 million people. And he said, oh, yes, we will allow fracking. This is a man with great heart. We will allow fracking. And then he said he never said what he said for the last year and a half. So let's take a look and see whether or not he said it and what he did once he got to Pennsylvania. Go ahead, put it up. Where is it?
Would there be any place for fossil fuels,
wow,
including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of those.
I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel. No more, no new fracking. I'd gradually move away from fracking.
And I think it's critically important on day one that we end any fossil fuel leases on public lands.
Well, like, what about, say, stopping fracking and stopping pipeline infrastructure and
They want to do the same thing I want to do. They want to phase out fossil fuels, and we're going to phase out fossil fuels.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Now, we have about 15 other ones, but we can't bore you. He said no fracking, then he says fracking. This is not what we need as a president, for a lot of other reasons, too. That's like the least of them. While I'm president, America will remain, for the first time, energy independent. We're energy independent. And we will continue to be the #1 producer of oil and natural gas anywhere in the world. We're #1, bigger than Russia, bigger than Saudi Arabia by a lot. By a lot. By a lot. Joe Biden has made a corrupt bargain in exchange for his party's nomination. He has handed control of his party over to socialists, communists, Marxists, left-wing extremists. You see them all summer long running up and down the street in Portland, which we could stop in about 15 minutes. All they have to do is call us. And they're filled with hatred, venom, and rage for our country. If Biden wins, the flag-burning rioters on the streets will be running your federal government. They will decide which businesses can exist and which will be outlawed. That's what they want to do. They will decide which rights you can keep and which will be revoked. They will re-educate your children. They will cancel your culture. Although we're making it very hard on them. You saw the withdrawals. I've made them all over the country. They wanted to re-educate our people. They wanted to disrespect our people. It was racist. It was terrible what they were doing. They'll order you to stay at home while letting rioters and MS-13 killers roam free. You saw that. Stay home. Don't go to church. They don't want you to go to church. But if you want to riot in the middle of a main street, you can do it. You want to riot on Fifth Avenue, there's no problem. Can't go to church, but you can riot. In fact, we usually call these friendly protests because you're not allowed to have political parties, right? Now, in this case, you can, because we're in a place called Florida, and we have a great governor. We have a great governor. Did he say a few words? Did he do a good job? But we don't want to hear from him again, right? No, Ron's doing a great job, thank you. The only one better is his first lady. There's no question about it. Great couple, and he's great. No, but they have in some states where the only thing you can do is protest. In other words, you can't do anything, but if you want to protest. So we call in certain states this, we call it a protest. It's a very friendly protest. It's great people, but we call it a protest, and nobody's ever had crowds like we've had. If you want your children to grow up in a free nation where they can speak their minds, practice their religion, and live by their values, then you must defeat sleepy Joe Biden and the radical left. You have to do it. Reject left-wing fascism and vote for American freedom. Vote for America first, because that's what we're all about, America first. And you know, when other countries come in to see me, I say, I'm sorry, it's America first. You know, they've been our allies. Forget about our enemies. Our enemies, obvious, but our allies have taken tremendous advantage of us on trade, on the military. We protect them for nothing. Not anymore, by the way. You know, in NATO, I said, you got to pay. We get $130 billion a year more from me. They didn't do it for 15 years. It went down. $130 billion, going up to $410 billion. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. My biggest fan of the whole world is the Secretary General Stoltenberg. Secretary General Stoltenberg of NATO. He said, I've never seen anything like it. So they weren't paying. They were delinquent, many of them. 7 were paying. The rest weren't, and now they're paying, and or most of them, or at least they're coming up rapidly. They were delinquent, to use an old word. If you're a moderate Democrat or liberal who knows that your party has gone totally off the rails, you only have to do one thing: join the Republican Party, but more importantly, vote Republican. Stay where you are. And you know, the numbers are coming in extremely strong. I don't want to talk too much about it, because there's a lot of cameras back there. That's a lot of fake news back there. A lot of fake news. But you know what happens? We have the great red wave, and that comes at the end when everybody goes out and votes, right? But let me just be very nice, because I don't want to go too far with this, because I'm watching all these people. Oh, well, the president maybe isn't doing. We're doing so much better than we were 4 years ago, and we did great. We did. We'll take that. But we're doing, thank you. I feel the same way about you. Sounds like a nice guy. Sounds like a nice man. But the votes are coming in, and we're way ahead of where we're supposed to be. In fact, in some of the states, we're more than even, and we're not supposed to. We're supposed to be like 80-20 behind, and we're even, and in some cases, we're ahead. And they're saying, what's going on? And they say, like in Texas, a lot of people are showing up. This is great. This could be the end of Trump. Unfortunately, there are people. Okay? They got the sash, they got the hat, they got the whole deal. Now, I think we're going to do very well, you know. Remember that? We had the same thing last time. This time it's even greater. But we had the fake polls. And we have some real polls. We're up 2 in Michigan. That's pretty good, you know. Considering it was decades before somebody won Michigan, we won it last time. Remember that? Donald Trump has won the great state of Michigan. Their heads exploded. Won Michigan. They go, did they just say he won Michigan? That hasn't been done in many, many decades. But we're doing great. We're doing much better than we did last time. In fact, we're leading everywhere. I think we're leading everywhere. I'll tell you what, North Carolina doing great. We think in Pennsylvania doing great. They've got to be very careful in Philadelphia. They play games in Philadelphia, and they won't let us watch the count in Philadelphia. Remember, we had a certain Republican running a number of years ago, got almost no votes in Philadelphia. It doesn't work that way. So we're watching Philadelphia. Mark Meadows, we will please watch Philadelphia, Mark Meadows, because I don't like what I'm hearing about Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia. I went to school in Philadelphia. I love it. But you know what? I don't like what I see going on in terms of what's gone on over the past and probably what's going on. Think of it. They fought like hell that we can't watch them count the vote. What's wrong with watching? Why can't we have poll watchers? And so we're in court trying to have poll watchers in Philadelphia. But we're doing great in Pennsylvania. Got to watch Philadelphia. We're doing great all over the place. We're doing really good in Iowa. People don't know it, but we're doing great. How could Iowa not go with us when I've given farmers $28 billion? Thank you, China, very much, okay? From China. And ethanol and everything else. No, we're doing great in Iowa. We're doing great. I mean, we're doing great. But we're really doing tremendous in Florida, so I just want to let you know that. Alabama, by the way, your neighbor in Alabama. Whoa. Whoa. Alabama. Well, wait, how many people here are from Alabama? Whoa. Whoa. How many people here are from Florida? Alabama has been great. I'm up so much in Alabama, right? And you have a great candidate, the coach. You know, a coach, another great coach. He's won 3 national championships. Urban Meyer, I was talking to him. We're talking about your coach / Senate candidate, which hopefully will be soon. And Urban said, not only is he a great guy, he's a great coach. He's a great coach. And he's going to be a fantastic senator, so that's good. So say hello to him, Alabama. I'm glad I knew about this whole deal in terms of your location. Can you imagine if I didn't call out Alabama for being a great state? Could you imagine? I'd be in big trouble. I'd be in big trouble. No, we're way up in Alabama. Alabama has been good for day one. I'm voting early tomorrow in Florida, and I urge every one of you to do the same. Go and vote. I'm here to vote. We just left the Villages. Did you ever hear of the Villages? Now, those are Trump fans. They get in those golf carts, and they will take on anyone. Nobody messing with them. Thank you. The first thing, crazy Nancy Pelosi and crying Chuck. Have you ever seen Schumer? Every time he wants to put on, he cries. We call him Crying Chuck. But I've known him I've known him so long. I gave him one of his first contributions, maybe his first. Can you believe it? Long time ago. I've known him for a long time. I never saw him cry. He only cries in front of a large crowd. It's an amazing thing. But the first thing that Biden and crazy Nancy and Crying Chuck, first thing they do, they'll want to pack the Supreme Court of the United States with radical left judges who will eliminate your Second Amendment. Now, by the way, if you're pro-life, they will wipe that out so fast, they'll wipe out every one of your rights. They're going to pack it. They're going to pack your court. They're going to get rid of the filibuster. They're going to do things like you wouldn't believe. They're going to add D.C., so they'll pick up another couple of senators, right? They'll add D.C. and a congressman or two. No, we can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. You know, one of the reasons they say I got elected was because I put out a list of 25 great conservative judges. And a lot of people, they said 22% of the people voted for me. I never believed that, but the fact is, I guess it must be so. But Joe he won't even say whether or not he's going to pack the court. You know why? Because he has no idea. Other people are telling him, Joe, you're going to pack the court. Okay, yes, sir. And Joe, he doesn't know. You know, you could have 16, 18, 19, 20, 21 judges. It's crazy. He's got to give us a list because nobody ever says this. They say you got to say about packing. You can't vote for him if he's going to pack the court. And you can't vote for him unless he gives a list where he swears that he is going to take people only from that list. And it has to be a sane list, not a radical left crazy list. And he's not even, people aren't even talking to him about that. He has no idea who he's going to put on. How about if you had a Supreme Court with radical left judges? We would have an entirely different country. So he's got to give us a list, and he's got to talk about it, you know? They didn't want to talk about it last night at the debate. They should have mentioned. How did I do last night, by the way? Okay. You know, when you love your country, it's sort of easy to do. Somebody said, that's it. You know, we had a tremendous number of people watching Super Bowl type numbers, I guess, right? Bigger. Because people like aren't happy with the NFL right now. You know that, right? They're not happy. They're not happy, but hopefully they'll be starting to respect our flag and respect our country. That's starting to happen. Look at basketball. The finals were down 71%. You know why? Because people want respect for our nation, for our flag. The radical Biden-Harris agenda is projected to slash the typical American income by $6,500 over a very short period of time. That's a middle-class nightmare. For the last 47 years, Joe Biden has been outsourcing your jobs, opening your borders, and sacrificing American blood and treasure in endless foreign wars. We're bringing them back. 19 years. We're bringing them all back. They're coming back. Except where we keep the oil. We're keeping some oil. Where we keep the oil, we're leaving a few. In 2016, Florida voted to fire this depraved political establishment. And you elected an outsider as president who is finally putting America first, making America great again. And you've seen over the last 2 weeks, Joe Biden is a corrupt politician, and he's compromised, fully compromised. China is desperate for Biden to win, because if Biden wins, China wins. And if China wins, China will own America. They will own, and they're not playing games. They don't want me to win. Did you see where Russia and Iran are going? Here we go, Russia, Russia, Russia again. You know? How about this, Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff? A perfect watermelon head. He looks just like a watermelon. He goes, I believe that the laptop was conceived and dedicated by Russia. Everyone say, Russia again? Oh, Russia again? No, it's not Russia. DNI, they came out, they said, not Russia. But you know what it is? I call it the laptop from hell, right? There's more stuff in that laptop, and they say that you haven't seen anything yet. This corruption is exactly why I decided to run for president in the first place. One of the reasons. One of the reasons. For years, I watched one betrayal after another as politicians like Joe Biden sold out American workers at every turn, shattering the lives of millions of American families while their families raked in. They just raked in millions of dollars. Biden goes to China. The son comes in, takes $1.5 billion to manage. He goes to Ukraine, right? He gets $183,000 a month to sit on a board. Well, he must have vast energy knowledge. No, he doesn't know anything about energy. This young person right in the front row knows more about energy than he does. And then Biden says, we're not giving you $1 billion. We're not giving you the $1 billion unless you get rid of the prosecutor that's investigating this company that my son's on, and unless you get rid of this prosecutor that's looking into my son. And they say, what do you mean? We're not giving you the $1 billion from the United States. And they get rid of the prosecutor. He goes, whoa, let them have the money. And that's okay. That's not okay. That's not okay. And there are many other instances. This is corrupt and corruption like nobody's ever seen. So I couldn't sit by and watch that. I couldn't sit by and watch these horrible trade deals that are ripping off America all the time. I couldn't sit back and watch China year after year after year. Hundreds of billions of dollars they made. And we have a much different attitude toward China now, much different. They are coming after me, a lot of people in Washington. By the way, nobody's ever gone through what I've gone through. Nobody. No president's ever gone through this. No president. Anybody else would have gone to a corner, sat down in the corner of a room, put their thumb in their mouth, and say, Mommy, Mommy, take me home, please, take me home. Nobody's ever gone through a fake impeachment based on a perfect phone call. The phone call was perfect, based on a phony statement made by some people. Did you ever see Shifty Schiff get up in front of Congress and imitate my call? Except it had nothing to do with my call. But by that time, they were already, that ship had sailed. But it was great. We went up. People appreciate what we go through. And people now see the corruption in Washington, the corruption in the media, because the media is just as corrupt as anybody on earth. And I would say that big tech is not distinguishing itself. I mean, they're not exactly doing so great in making themselves look legit. How about big tech? They don't want to put something on, they don't put it on. But you know what? Can I tell you what? People are wise to it. They're wise to it. They see what's happening. So they're coming after me because I'm standing up for you, I'm standing up for this country. I'm standing up for the United States of America, and that's the way it is. That's the way it is. And if I don't sound like a typical Washington politician, it's because I'm not a politician. That's what you wanted. And if I don't always play by the rules of Washington and the Washington establishment, and by the way, if I did, we would have lost a long time ago. It's because I was elected to fight for you, and I fought harder than any president in the history of this country. Joe Biden spent his entire time in the Senate, long, long days, hours, nights, working to cut your Social Security. You don't know about that. And to cut your Medicare. People don't know about that. He denies it. He denied it last night. He denied it.
The Constitution says the first duty of the federal government